5 years had passed since Jake Morrison pulled a baby from the ruins of New Geneva Colony. The war with the Zephyrians still raged across the galaxy, but life on Earth continued. People fell in love, had families, and tried to find happiness. Despite the darkness spreading through the stars, Alex Santos was now 6 years old. He lived in a small house in Denver with his adopted parents, Tom and Maria Santos. They were good people who had volunteered to take in war orphans. They loved Alex like their own son, but sometimes they worried about him. "Alex, breakfast is." "Ready," Maria called from the kitchen. Alex sat at his desk, drawing with colored pencils. His tongue stuck out slightly as he concentrated. The drawing showed a woman with silver skin and sad eyes. He had been drawing the same woman for months, but he had never seen her before, not in pictures or movies or anywhere else. "Come in, Mom," Alex said. He carefully put his drawing in a box under his bed with all the others. Tom Santos was reading the morning news on his tablet. His face was serious as he scrolled through reports of new battles and casualty numbers. The war was not going well for humanity. "Any word from Colonel Morrison?" Maria asked as she set a plate of eggs and toast. In front of Alex, Tom shook his head. "He's been deployed to the Outer Rim for 3 months, but he said he'd try to visit when he gets back." Alex's face lit up. "Uncle Jake is coming back?" "He's not your uncle, sweetie," Maria said gently. "He's just a friend who saved you." But Alex always thought of Jake as Uncle Jake, the tall soldier, visited every few months, bringing gifts and stories. Alex felt safe when Jake was around, like nothing bad could happen. "Can I show him my drawings when he comes?" Alex asked. "Of course," Tom said. "I'm sure he'd love to see them." After breakfast, Alex went to his room to get ready for school. But when he looked in the mirror, something strange happened. For just a moment, his reflection seemed different. His ears looked more pointed. His eyes seemed to glow with a faint purple light. Alex blinked hard and looked again. Everything was normal. Brown hair, brown eyes, regular ears. He shook his head and grabbed his backpack. At school, Alex was the smartest kid in his class. He could solve math problems that confused kids 2 grades older. He could read books that most adults found difficult. His teacher said he was gifted, but Alex didn't feel special. He just felt different. During lunch, Alex sat with his best friend, Bobby Chun. They were talking about the war and wondering if it would ever end. "My dad says the Zephyrians are evil," Bobby said. "He says they want to destroy all humans." Alex frowned. "That doesn't seem right. Why would they want to? Destroy us?" "Because they're aliens," Bobby said like it was obvious. "They're not like us." Something inside Alex's chest felt tight and angry. Maybe they're not all bad. Maybe some of them are good. Bobby stared at him. "That's a weird thing to say, Alex." Before Alex could answer, the tablet in his backpack started, making strange noises. The screen was flashing different colors rapidly. Other kids' tablets were doing the same thing. "What's happening?" Someone yelled. The teacher, Mrs. Johnson, tried to turn off the malfunctioning tablets, but they wouldn't respond. The screen showed swirling patterns of light that hurt to look at. Alex felt dizzy. The tight feeling in his chest was getting stronger. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, trying to calm down. Suddenly, all the tablets went quiet. The screens returned to normal. Mrs. Johnson looked confused as she checked each device. "That was strange," she said. "Must have been some kind of electromagnetic interference." Alex opened his eyes. He felt better now, but he noticed that all the other kids were staring at him. For some reason, he felt like the tablet problem was his fault. That afternoon, Alex walked home alone. He lived only 6 blocks from school, and Maria said he was old enough to walk by himself. But today, he felt like someone was watching him. He stopped at the corner of 5th and Main Street. There was a man in a dark coat standing by a lamppost. The man was tall and thin, with pale skin and strange eyes. When Alex looked at him, the man smiled and nodded. Alex felt scared. He started walking faster. When he looked back, the man was gone. At home, Alex went straight to his room. He pulled out his box of drawings and looked at them again. The woman with silver skin seemed familiar, like someone he should know. But he couldn't remember where he might have seen her. He started drawing again. This time, he drew the scary man from the street. As he drew, he began to remember other times he had seen similar people, always watching him, always disappearing when he looked directly at them. "Alex, dinner," Maria called. During dinner, Alex was quiet. Tom and Maria exchanged worried glances. "How was school today?" Tom asked. "Fine," Alex said. But he pushed his food around his plate without eating much. "Are you feeling okay?" Maria asked. She reached over and touched his forehead. "You're not running a fever." Alex looked up at his adopted parents. They were trying so hard to take care of him. He didn't want to worry them with stories about strange men and broken tablets. "I'm just tired," he said. Later that night, Alex lay in bed staring at the ceiling. He couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the silver-skinned woman from his drawings. She was trying to tell him something, but he couldn't understand what. He got up and walked to his window. The street was dark and empty. Or so he thought. There, under the streetlight, was the man in the dark coat. He was looking up at Alex's window. When their eyes met, the man raised his hand in a small wave. Alex stepped back from the window, his heart pounding. He wanted to call for Tom and Maria, but something told him that would only make things worse. He peeked out the window again. The man was gone. The next morning, Alex woke up feeling strange. His reflection in the bathroom mirror looked different again. His ears were definitely more pointed. His eyes had flecks of purple in them. And when he concentrated, he could make small objects move without touching them. He picked up his toothbrush and focused on it. Slowly, it began to float in the air. Alex moved his hand, and the toothbrush followed the movement. "This is impossible," Alex whispered. He heard footsteps in the hallway. Quickly, he grabbed the toothbrush and started brushing his teeth like nothing had happened. "Alex, you're going to be late for school," Maria called. "Coming," Alex said through a mouthful of toothpaste. At school, Alex tried to act normal. But during science class, something happened that he couldn't hide. They were studying electricity. Mrs. Johnson was using a small generator to power a light bulb. She asked for volunteers to help with the demonstration. Alex raised his hand. When he touched the generator, something incredible happened. The light bulb didn't just turn on. It glowed brighter than the sun. Sparks flew from the generator. The lights in the entire classroom flickered and buzzed. "Alex, let go!" Mrs. Johnson shouted. Alex pulled his hand away. The generator sparked once more and then went completely dead. The classroom lights returned to normal, but everyone was staring at him. "I'm sorry," Alex said. "I don't know what happened." Mrs. Johnson looked at the broken generator. "It's okay, Alex. These old machines sometimes malfunction." But Alex knew. It wasn't the machine's fault. It was him. He was different. He was dangerous. During lunch, Alex sat alone. The other kids were whispering about what had happened in science class. Some of them looked scared when they looked at him. Alex felt more alone than ever. You wish Uncle Jake would come back soon. Jake was the only person who made him feel like he belonged somewhere. What Alex didn't know was that far across the galaxy, Jake Morrison was thinking about him too. The Colonel was fighting in a battle on a distant world, but part of his mind was always on the boy he had saved. Something told Jake that Alex was special. Something told him that the boy was in danger. In the shadows of Alex's school, the man in the dark coat watched and waited. He spoke quietly into a communication device. "The hybrid is manifesting abilities earlier than expected," he said. "We need to accelerate the timeline." "Understood," came the reply. "Continue monitoring. Do not engage until the extraction team arrives." The man put away his device and smiled. Soon, Alex would learn the truth about what he was. Soon, he would understand why his dreams were filled with silver-skinned women and distant stars. But for now, Alex was just a scared little boy who wanted to go home and draw pictures of the mother he had never known. 3 years before the attack on New Geneva Colony, Lieutenant Jake Morrison was a different man. He was younger, more hopeful about the future. The war between humans and Zephyrians had not started yet. People still believed peace was possible. Jake was stationed at Outpost 7 on the planet Kepler 442b. It was a small base built for one purpose: to help humans and Zephyrians learn to work together. The idea was simple. If both species could understand each other better, maybe they could avoid a war. The outpost was beautiful. It sat on a hill overlooking a valley filled with purple flowers. The air was clean and sweet. 2 suns hung in the sky, one yellow like Earth's sun, the other pale blue. Jake had never seen anything like it. Another day in paradise, Jake said to himself as he walked to the communication center. His job was to help translate between human and Zephyrian languages. It was harder than it sounded. The 2 species thought very differently about everything. That morning, Jake was working on a report about food-sharing agreements when she walked in. Her name was Zarthel. She was a Zephyrian diplomat, part of the peace negotiation team. Jake had seen her before, but always from a distance. Up close, she was even more beautiful. Zephyrians looked almost human, but not quite. Zarthel had silver skin that seemed to glow in the light. Her hair was white as snow and moved like water. Her eyes were the color of deep space, dark blue with tiny lights that sparkled like stars. "Lieutenant Morrison," she said in perfect English. Her voice was like music. "I need your help with something." Jake stood up quickly, maybe too quickly. "Of course. What do you need?" Zarthel smiled. When she smiled, Jake felt his heart skip a beat. "I am working on a proposal for shared agricultural zones, but I do not understand some of the human farming terms." "I can help with that," Jake said. "Please, sit down." For the next 2 hours, they worked together. Jake explained human farming methods while Zarthel shared Zephyrian techniques. Jake learned that Zephyrians could make plants grow faster by singing to them. Zarthel learned that humans use something called crop rotation to keep soil healthy. "Your people are very practical," Zarthel said. "You find simple solutions to complex problems." "Your people are more connected to nature," Jake replied. "You understand things we miss." As the days passed, Jake and Zarthel worked together more and more. They discussed trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and settlement plans. But they also talked about other things. Their hopes for the future. Their fears about the growing tensions between their peoples. "Do you think peace is possible?" Zarthel asked one evening. They were sitting on the outpost observation deck. Watching the 2 suns set. Jake looked at her. The starlight in her eyes seemed sadder than usual. "I have to believe it is," he said. "Otherwise, what are we doing here?" Zarthel nodded. "My people have a saying. The flower that blooms in winter is the most beautiful. Maybe our friendship is like that flower." "Friendship," Jake repeated. But he knew it was more than that. He was falling in love with her, and he thought maybe she felt the same way. Problem was that relationships between humans and Zephyrians were strongly discouraged. Not forbidden, exactly, but not welcome either. Both species were suspicious of mixing. They feared losing their identity, their culture, their way of life. But Jake and Zarthel couldn't help themselves. They began meeting secretly. Late at night, they would walk through the purple flower fields. They would talk about everything and nothing. They would hold hands under the alien stars. "This is dangerous," Zarthel said one night. "If my people find out ... Let them find out, Jake." Sighed. "What we have is real. It's good. How can that be wrong?" Zarthel touched his face gently. "You do not understand. There are those on both sides who want this war. They see any connection between our peoples as weakness." Jake pulled her closer. "Then we'll be strong enough for both of us." For 6 months, they continued their secret relationship. Jake had never been happier. Zarathel taught him about Zephyrian art and music. She showed him how to read the emotional colors that danced around her when she was happy or sad. Jake taught her about human history and humor. He showed her pictures of Earth and told her stories about his childhood. "I would like to see Earth someday," Zarathel said. "Especially the oceans. We have no oceans on my homeworld." "I'll take you there," Jake promised. "When this is all over, we'll go together." But the peace talks were not going well. Every day brought new problems, trade disputes, border conflicts, cultural misunderstandings that seemed impossible to solve. "The hardliners are gaining power," Zarathel told Jake one night. She looked worried. "They say humans cannot be trusted. They point to every small disagreement as proof that we are too different." Jake felt a cold fear in his stomach. "What does that mean?" "It means I may be recalled soon. The negotiation team is being replaced with military advisors." Jake grabbed her hands. "No, we can't let that happen. We're so close to something good here." Zarathel's eyes filled with tears. When Zephyrians cried, their tears looked like liquid starlight. "I do not want to leave you, but I may not have a choice." That night, they made love for the first time. It was gentle and desperate and beautiful. Jake felt like he was connecting with something larger than himself, something that made the whole universe make sense. "I love you," he whispered in the darkness. "I love you too," Zarathel replied. "No matter what happens, remember that." 2 weeks later, the order came. All Zephyrian diplomats were being recalled immediately. The peace talks were suspended. Military forces were being mobilized on both sides. Jake found Zarathel packing her belongings. Her movements were quick and efficient, but he could see the sadness in the way her shoulders shook. "This isn't goodbye," Jake said. "We'll find a way to be together." Zarathel turned to face him. Her eyes were dim now, the starlight almost gone. "Jake, there is something I must tell you." "But I cannot. Not yet. Not while things are so uncertain." "What? What is it?" She kissed him one last time. "Just know that whatever happens, you have given me the greatest gift possible. You have shown me that love can exist between our peoples. That gives me hope." Jake watched her ship leave that afternoon. He stood on the observation deck until it disappeared among the stars. He felt empty inside, like part of his soul had been torn away. Over the next few months, Jake threw himself into his work. He processed evacuation orders. He helped shut down the outposts. He prepared for the war that everyone now knew was coming. But sometimes late at night, he would dream of silver skin and starlight eyes. He would wake up feeling like he had lost something important, something precious. What Jake didn't know was that Zarathel had discovered she was pregnant just before leaving. She had wanted to tell him, but the situation was too dangerous. A half-human, half-Zephyrian baby will be seen as an abomination by the hardliners on both sides. So she kept the secret. She returned to the Zephyrian homeworld and gave birth, in hiding. Then, when the war began, she volunteered for a dangerous mission. She returned to Kepler 442b as a spy, but her real goal was to protect their child and find a way to end the war before it destroyed everything. She never got the chance to tell Jake about their son. The war came too fast, too violently. But she never stopped loving him. Even as she died protecting their baby, she whispered Jake's name. Now, 3 years later, Jake had saved that same baby without knowing it was his own child. The wheel of fate had turned, bringing father and son together in the most unexpected way. But Jake would not learn the truth for several more years. For now, he was just a soldier who had saved a life. A man who carried memories of a lost love he could never quite forget. The smoke filled Jake Morrison's lungs as he moved through the burned buildings of New Geneva Colony. His boots crunched on broken glass and chunks of concrete. The enemy had hit this place hard. Very hard. "Alpha Squad report," Jake spoke into his radio. His voice was calm, but his heart was racing. 3 days ago, this was a peaceful human settlement. Now it looked like hell. No survivors in Sector 7, came the voice of Private Danny Lee through the static. Sector 9 is clear too, added Corporal Amy Walsh. Just bodies. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead. The air was thick with dust and the smell of burned metal. He had been a soldier for 12 years, but scenes like this never got easier. The Zephyrian Empire had attacked without warning. They had killed everyone they could find. Keep looking, Jake said. Command wants us out in 20 minutes, but we check every building first. The colony had been home to 5,000 people. Farmers, engineers, teachers, kids. Normal people trying to build a new life on this distant planet. Now most of them were dead. Jake kicked open the door of what used to be a small house. The roof had collapsed. Furniture was scattered everywhere. He stepped carefully over the broken wood and metal. His rifle was ready, though he doubted any enemies were still here. That's when he heard it. A soft crying sound, very faint. Almost like a cat, but not quite. Jake stopped moving. He listened hard. There it was again, coming from under a pile of rubble in the corner. Hey, Jake called to his squad. I got something here. He set his rifle down and started pulling away chunks of concrete and twisted metal. The crying got louder. It was definitely a baby. Careful, Sergeant, said Danny as he ran over to help. That stuff looks ready to fall? Jake didn't care. Someone was alive under there. Someone small and helpless. He grabbed a bigger piece of concrete and threw it aside. His hands were bleeding. Now, but he kept digging. Almost there, he said, mostly to himself. Amy joined him, using her rifle to pry away a long metal beam. I can see something, she said, more crying. Louder now. Finally, Jake cleared enough space to see into a small pocket under the collapsed wall. There, wrapped in a torn blanket, was a baby. Maybe 6 months old. The child had dark hair and was reaching up with tiny hands. Well, I'll be damned, Jake whispered. He reached down carefully. The baby was so small, so fragile. When Jake's hands touched the child, the crying stopped. 2 big violet eyes looked up at him. Hey there, little guy, Jake said softly. You're okay now. The baby made a small sound, almost like a question. Jake noticed the eyes were unusual, very bright purple, and the ears were a little pointed at the tips. Probably genetic modifications, Jake thought. Lots of Outer Rim colonists did that kind of thing. How did he survive? Amy asked. Jake looked around the small space. Must have been protected by that beam, he said. Lucky kid. Danny was checking his watch. Sergeant, we need to move. The transport leaves in 15 minutes. Jake nodded. He lifted the baby carefully out of the rubble. The child was surprisingly light. Too light, maybe. But he was breathing and his eyes were alert. Where are his parents? Amy asked. Jake looked at the destroyed house around them. Probably didn't make it, he said quietly. The baby grabbed onto Jake's uniform jacket with both hands. The grip was stronger than expected. Jake felt something strange in his chest, a protective feeling he had never experienced before. What should we do with him? Danny asked. We take him with us, Jake said. No other choice. Jake wrapped the baby in his own jacket. The child seemed to relax against his chest. For a moment, Jake forgot about the war, the dead colony, everything. This little life was all that mattered. Alpha? Squad, this is Command, the radio crackled. Status report. Jake pressed his radio button. Command, this is Alpha Squad. We found one survivor, a baby. We're bringing him out. Copy that, Alpha Squad. Get to the transport now. Jake looked down at the baby one more time. The violet eyes were closing. The child was falling asleep, finally safe. Let's go, Jake said. The 3 soldiers moved quickly through the ruined colony. Smoke was still rising from some buildings. In the distance, Jake could see the black shapes of Zephyrian ships hanging in the sky like angry clouds. Think they'll come back? Amy asked. Doesn't matter, Jake said. We got what we came for. But as they walked, Jake couldn't shake a strange feeling. Something about the baby seemed familiar. The way the child had looked at him, the unusual eyes, the pointed ears. You ever seen a baby like this before? Jake asked Danny. Danny shrugged. Some colonists do weird genetic stuff. Makes their kids stronger or smarter or whatever. Jake nodded, but he wasn't convinced. There was something different about this baby. Something important. They reached the transport ship just as the engines were starting up. Other soldiers were loading the last of the supplies. Jake could see a few more. Survivors in the medical bay. Not many. Thank God, said Captain Rodriguez as he saw them approach. We were about to leave without you. Had to check every building, Jake said. Found this little guy. The captain looked at the baby in Jake's arms. Cute kid. What's his name? Jake. Realized he didn't know. There had been no identification in the house. No parents to ask. Alex, Jake said suddenly. He didn't know why he picked that name. It just felt right. Alex it is, the captain said. Get him to medical. We'll figure out what to do with him later. As the transport lifted off, Jake looked out the window at the burning colony below. So much death, so much destruction. But they had saved one life. One small, precious life. Dr. Lisa Carter took Alex from Jake's arms in the medical bay. She was gentle but professional. I'll take good care of him, she said. Don't worry. Jake wanted to stay, but he had reports to write. Equipment to check. Soldier stuff. His name is Alex, Jake told the doctor. I found him in the ruins. Dr. Carter nodded. I'll make sure he gets to the refugee families. There are good people. Waiting on Earth? Jake watched as the doctor carried Alex to a small medical bed. The baby was awake again, looking around with those bright purple eyes. For a moment, their eyes met across the room. Jake felt that strange protective feeling again. Like this baby was somehow connected to him. See you later, Alex, Jake whispered. The baby seemed to hear him. One tiny hand reached out toward Jake before Dr. Carter turned away. Jake stood there for a long time, watching the medical bay. Something told him this wasn't goodbye. Somehow, he knew he would see Alex again, but Jake Morrison had no idea that the baby he had just saved was his own son. He had no idea that 3 years earlier, he had fallen in love with a Zephyrian woman named Zarathel. He had no idea that she had died protecting their child during the colony attack. All Jake knew was that a small life had been saved in a war, full of death and destruction, that felt like a victory. As the transport ship headed toward Earth, Jake finally allowed himself to rest. In his dreams, he saw violet eyes and heard a baby's cry. He saw a woman with silver skin and a sad smile, but he couldn't remember her face when he woke up. The war would continue. People would die, but Alex would live. And somehow, that made everything else bearable. The next morning, Jake's quarters had been transformed into a research laboratory. Dr. Chun had brought portable scanning equipment. Commander Thekvel had arrived with 3 volunteer soldiers and several other aliens from different species. Waited in the corridor outside. Word about the human bed experiments had spread throughout the station faster than anyone had expected. This is incredible, said Ben Torres, a human linguist who had joined the research team. I've never seen aliens so interested in human culture before. Usually they think our ways are too simple or primitive. That is because your ways work, said Zarka, who was helping Jake arrange the scanning equipment. Her crystal body glowed with healthy light, a stark contrast to the stress-fractured appearance she had shown when she first arrived. Simple does not mean wrong. Katie Walsh, a human engineer, was examining Jake's bed with scientific interest. It's really just basic comfort principles, she said. Soft support, temperature control, and a sense of security. But apparently, that combination is more powerful than we realize. The first volunteer was a Vexani soldier named Crixnow. He was tall and blue-skinned with 4 arms and a military bearing that made him look uncomfortable with the entire experiment. I do not understand how lying on soft materials could improve combat readiness, he said skeptically. The only way to know is to try, Dr. Chung replied, holding her scanning device. I'll monitor your vital signs before, during, and after rest. We need to see if human comfort methods affect your species the same way they affected Zaraka. Crix now lay down on the bed awkwardly. His forearms didn't seem to know where to go, and his rigid military posture made him look like he was lying at attention rather than resting. This feels unnatural. Try to relax, Jake suggested. The bed works best when you let yourself feel comfortable and safe. Dexani soldiers do not need to feel safe. We are always ready for battle. Maybe that's the problem, Katie said gently. Maybe you're so focused on being ready for danger that you never truly rest. Over the next hour, Dr. Chun's scanners showed interesting changes in Crix Now's physiology. His stress hormones decreased significantly, and his muscle tension began to relax. By the end of the session, he was sleeping peacefully, his forearms arranged naturally around the pillows. Look at these readings, Dr. Chun whispered to Jake. His recovery rate is increasing even while he sleeps. His body is repairing. Micro damage in his muscles, and his brain activity shows deeper rest patterns than normal for his species. When Crix Now woke up 3 hours later, he looked confused. I feel different, stronger, but also more peaceful. How is this possible? Your body was able to focus completely on healing and recovery because you felt safe enough to truly rest. Dr. Chun explained. Your species' normal rest methods keep you partially alert for danger, which prevents complete recovery. The second volunteer was an Altarian merchant named Vex Kui. She had 6 arms and green skin, and she seemed much more open to the experiment than Crix Now had been. My people travel long distances for trade, she explained. If human sleeping methods can reduce travel fatigue, it will be very valuable for our commerce. Vex Kui adapted to the bed more easily than Crix Now. She arranged her 6 arms comfortably and seemed to enjoy the soft materials. Her scanning results showed even more dramatic improvements than the Dexani soldier. Her metabolism became more efficient, and her stress levels dropped to nearly 0. This is wonderful, she said when she woke up. I have not felt this refreshed after rest in years. My people spend so much time traveling that we rarely get proper rest. This could change everything for us. The third volunteer was the most surprising. It was a Centauri scientist named Dr. Keckmore, who belonged to a species known for their logical, emotionless approach to life. I am participating in this experiment purely for scientific purposes, he announced. I do not expect to experience the emotional benefits that others have reported. But when Dr. Keckmore woke up from his session in the human bed, something had clearly changed. His usually rigid posture was more relaxed, and there was something softer in his expression. The physical benefits are measurable and significant, he said in his usual precise manner. But there are also unexpected psychological effects. I feel more content. This is unusual for my species. Maybe contentment is more universal than any of us realize, Ben Torres suggested. Maybe all intelligent species need to feel comfortable and safe, even if they don't admit it. As they compiled their research data, more aliens gathered outside Jake's quarters. News of the successful experiments had spread, and beings from a dozen different species wanted to try human sleeping methods for themselves. We have a problem, Katie said, looking at the crowd in the corridor. We don't have enough beds for everyone who wants to try this. And we have a bigger problem, Dr. Chun added, checking her communicator. Ambassador Kefmore's ship arrived early. He's on his way to the station now. Zaraka's crystal body flickered with anxiety. He will be very angry when he sees what we have been doing. He will think I have influenced other species to abandon their traditional ways. But we have proof that human methods work, Jake protested. We have scientific data showing improved health and recovery across multiple species. Ambassador Kefmore does not care about scientific data when it conflicts with Veltar tradition, Zaraka said sadly. He believes that the old ways are Always the best ways, regardless of evidence. Commander Thekvel stepped forward. Then perhaps it is time to involve the Galactic Council. If multiple species are benefiting from human comfort methods, this becomes a matter of interspecies cooperation, not just Veltar internal affairs. Can we do that? Jake asked. Can we request a council hearing? Any species can request a hearing if they believe an important discovery affects multiple civilizations, Dr. Chun said. But it would have to be a formal presentation with complete scientific documentation. How long would that take? Zaraka asked. At least a week to prepare properly, Dr. Chun replied. Maybe more. I do not have a week, Zaraka said. Ambassador Kefmore will take me back to the homeworld as soon as he arrives. Not if you request asylum while the council considers the case, Commander Thekvel suggested. As long as your research has potential benefits for multiple species, you can claim protection under interspecies research protocols. Ben Torres looked up from his data tablet. Actually, we might have an even stronger case than that. Look at these language. Analysis results. He showed them his screen, which displayed communication patterns from the past few days. I've been monitoring interspecies communications about this bed research. Over 20 different species have expressed interest in learning more. That's not just scientific curiosity, that's potential widespread adoption. What does that mean? Zaraka asked. It means this isn't just about you anymore, Katie explained. You've accidentally started a galaxy-wide movement toward better rest and comfort. Ambassador Kefmore isn't just trying to control one Veltar diplomat. He's trying to stop something that could affect every species in the galaxy. But is that good or bad? Zaraka wondered. That, Dr. Chun said, is what the Galactic Council will have to decide. As they prepared their research data for presentation, Zaraka felt a strange mix of fear and determination. She had never intended to challenge the traditions of her people, much less start a galaxy-wide discussion about rest and comfort. But now that it had happened, she realized she couldn't go back to the old ways. Even if Ambassador Kefmore demanded it, the soft human bed had given her more than just better sleep. It had given her a glimpse of what her people could be if they weren't so afraid of change. And that was worth fighting for, even if it meant standing up to the most powerful figures in her government. The next few hours would determine whether her discovery would change the galaxy, or whether traditional forces would suppress it before it could spread any further. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning while Zaraka was eating breakfast with Jake in the station's cafeteria. Her personal communicator buzzed with an incoming transmission from her homeworld. She looked at the device with growing concern. Direct messages from home were rare and usually meant trouble. Zaraka of the Veltar. The message began in the formal tone her people use for official communications. You are required to report your status immediately. There have been concerning reports about your behavior at the research station. Jake noticed her distress. What's wrong? A message from my people. They want me to report my status. But I have not done anything wrong. I have been following the cultural exchange program exactly as instructed. Maybe someone saw the research reports we've been filing, Jake suggested. We've been documenting your progress pretty thoroughly. Zaraka activated her communicator's response function. This is Zaraka. I'm in good health and completing my cultural exchange assignment as directed. What specific concerns do you have? The reply came faster than she expected. Reports indicate you have abandoned traditional Veltar resting practices in favor of primitive alien methods. Confirm or deny these reports immediately. Her crystal body dimmed with worry. They know about the bed. How could they know that? Jake asked Dot before Zaraka could answer. Her communicator buzzed again. This time it was a voice message, not text. The speaker's crystal voice was cold and sharp. Zaraka, this is Ambassador Kefmore. I am deeply disappointed by what I have learned about your conduct. You have brought shame to our people by regressing to primitive sleeping methods. You will return to proper Veltar practices immediately, or face serious consequences. Jake frowned. Who is Ambassador Kefmore? He is the leader of our delegation to the Galactic Council. He is very traditional and very powerful. If he is angry with me, I could lose my position in the cultural exchange program. But you haven't done anything wrong. You've made an important discovery about your people's health and well-being. Ambassador Kefmore would not see it that way. He believes that any change from traditional methods is weakness and regression. As they sat in the cafeteria, other beings started to notice Zaraka's distress. Her crystal body was flickering with nervous energy, and the light patterns she was creating were attracting attention from nearby tables. A large, blue-skinned being with 4 arms approached their table. Excuse me, but are you the Veltar who has been sleeping in human beds? Zaraka looked up in surprise. Yes, but how did you know about that? Word travels fast on a space station. I am Commander Thekvel of the Dexani military. I have been hearing very interesting things about your experiments with human comfort methods. I would not call them experiments, Zaraka said carefully. I have simply been trying different ways of resting, and the results have been remarkable from what I hear. Your health improvements are quite dramatic. Jake leaned forward. You've been following our research? The Dexani military is always interested in ways to improve soldier performance and recovery, Commander Thekvel explained. If human sleeping methods can improve health and energy levels, we want to know about it. But it might not work. The same way for your species, Jake warned. Zaraka's people have a biological history with similar comfort methods. Your species might respond differently. That is why we want to test it. I have 3 volunteers from my unit who would like to try sleeping in human beds. Before Jake could respond, Zaraka's communicator buzzed again. This time, the message was longer and more formal. Zaraka of the Veltar. By order of the Veltar Council, you are commanded to cease all non-traditional resting practices immediately. You will return to proper alcove rest until a retrieval team can be sent to collect you. Ambassador Kefmore will arrive at the station within 5 standard days to personally oversee your correction and return to proper behavior. Zaraka's crystal body went completely dark for a moment. When the light returned, it was dim and filled with stress fractures. They are sending someone to get me, she said quietly. And they want me to stop sleeping in the bed. Can they do that? Jake asked. Can they force you to change how you rest? I am part of their delegation. I must follow their orders or face exile from my people. Commander Thekvel listened to this exchange with growing interest. This is unfortunate. From what I have observed, you have made important discoveries about interspecies compatibility. It would be a shame to lose that knowledge. What do you mean? Zaraka asked. I mean that other species are starting to take notice of your success with human comfort methods. The Altarians have been asking questions. The Centauri delegation has requested information about your health improvements. Even some of the more traditional species are curious. Jake's eyes widened. Are you saying that other aliens want to try human beds? I am saying that you may have started something bigger than you realize. If human comfort methods can help multiple species improve their health and well-being, it could change how we think about rest and recovery throughout the galaxy. But my people do not want me to continue, Zaraka said sadly. They think I'm being primitive and shameful. Perhaps, Commander Thekvel said, but other species might disagree. The Dexani military values results over tradition. If human methods produce better soldiers, we will use human methods. Over the next 2 days, more aliens began approaching Zaraka and Jake with questions about their research. A group of Centauri scientists wanted to understand how human beds affected crystal-based biology. Some Altarian merchants were interested in whether human comfort methods could reduce travel fatigue on long space journeys. Dr. Cheen joined them for lunch on the 3rd day, bringing troubling news. I've been monitoring communications from various homeworlds. Word about Zaraka's transformation has spread beyond the station. Some species are excited about the possibilities, but others are concerned about human cultural influence. What kind of concerns? Jake asked. Some of the more traditional species think that human comfort methods represent a form of cultural contamination. They worry that if their people start adopting human practices, they might lose their own cultural identity. That is ridiculous, Zaraka said, though her crystal body flickered with uncertainty. I am still Veltar. I have not changed who I am, only how I rest. But you have to admit, Dr. Chun said gently, that you think differently about comfort. And rest now. You've experienced something your people haven't felt for thousands of years. That's a pretty significant change. Zaraka thought about this. It was true that she saw things differently now. The idea of returning to the rigid, uncomfortable alcove filled her with dread. She had begun to value comfort and peaceful rest in ways her people never did. Was that cultural contamination, or was it rediscovering something important that her people had lost? I do not know what to do, she admitted. If I continue sleeping in the human bed, I will be exiled from my people. But if I return to the alcove, I will lose everything I have gained. There might be a third option, Dr. Chun suggested. What if we could prove to the Galactic Council that human comfort methods represent legitimate scientific advancement, not cultural contamination? How would we do that? Jake asked. By conducting proper research with multiple species. If we can show that human comfort methods improve health and well-being across different biological types, it becomes a medical issue, not a cultural one. Commander Thekvel nodded approvingly. The Dexani military would support such research. We care about results, not politics. But we only have 2 days before Ambassador Kethmore arrives, Zaraka said. That is not enough time for proper research. Then we need to work fast, Dr. Chun said. And we need to be prepared to defend our findings when he gets here. As they made plans for accelerated research, Zaraka felt a mixture of hope and fear. She had never challenged her people's authority before, but she also could not bear the thought of giving up the peace and comfort she had found. The next 2 days would determine not just her own future, but possibly the future of rest and comfort for species throughout the galaxy.